Nick Suriano typically likes to keep things on the down low. We're never sure what's next for him, and it's always a mystery. And you may have been asking, what's next for the two-time national champion? Well, we finally have an answer. Nick Suriano will be continuing his career with the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club. If you're not sure what that is, that's essentially the freestyle training center attached with the Michigan wrestling program. This is exciting for many reasons, but the one thing that Nick Suriano had to say about the situation was, I will continue to accelerate and merge with the Cliff Keen and Michigan wrestling. I embrace the opportunity to become a world and Olympic champion by the summer of 2024. So there are a couple things to take away here. One of them is I will continue to merge with the Cliff Keen and Michigan wrestling. I think that's exciting news because it's no surprise that Nick Suriano has been all around the country. He's been at Penn State and Rutgers and Arizona State training freestyle with them, and then finally to Michigan this past wrestling season. So it wouldn't have been a shock if Suriano went training somewhere else because he likes to get around everywhere. And I like the fact that he's continuing with Michigan because it seems like he finally found his fit. Now, the other thing to take away from this is that Nick Suriano wants to be an Olympic and world champion. He's wrestled freestyle a little bit sparingly over the past few years, really since he won his first title back in 2019. He's wrestled some international tournaments, but now we know that that's really what he's looking forward to. He didn't get his chance to compete at the Olympic trials this past Olympic cycle because he had a negative COVID test. It was unfortunate. The day of the event, we couldn't see him wrestle. But now competing at 57 kilos, look forward to 2024 when you'll have Thomas Gilman there, Spencer Lee, maybe RBY. Who knows who else is going to be there at that point. So, I mean, with Nick Suriano in that mix, it's going to be incredible. Like I said, this is big because we weren't sure. Was Suriano going to wrestle freestyle? Was he going to coach? Was he going to go into the MMA? Well, one guy we know that has gone into the MMA and has been quite successful with it is Bo Nickal. Now, Bo Nickal earned a UFC contract with a 52-second submission win over Donovan Beard. This was exciting for many, many reasons. And I think that, like, if you've been following Bo Nickal and what's been going on with his career in the MMA, he's undefeated 3-0, and all three of his fights haven't gone past the first round. I think if you even add up the times, even that doesn't add up to a full round yet, which really correlates to how his wrestling career was, right? How many matches did he have really go past the first period? Not many. But the reason I think this is exciting for wrestling fans, whether you are a Bo Nickal fan or a Penn State fan or not, is it's giving attention to the sport of wrestling. I actually received an email this past weekend from somebody who said the reason he's getting into wrestling and has started watching Fanco Wrestling is because he saw Bo Nickal on the Dana White Contender Series, has been kind of getting hyped up by him and wanted to learn more about wrestling. Wanted to see where this guy actually came from, and that's where he's learning more about it, which I think is completely awesome. And I welcome all of the new fans that are MMA fans coming into wrestling, right? And now we have a big-time star with Bo Nickal, hopefully making a huge splash into the UFC this December. Now, there are a couple other pieces of wrestling headlines. One of them is that new rankings have dropped. The other is that a few new schedules have dropped. But let's first talk about the new rankings, because Intermat and FloWrestling both released a fresh set of rankings. And I have a few different takeaways from these. One of them is by Intermat. So we see both by Intermat and through Flow, Vito Arujau is now at 133 pounds. He was previously ranked at 125, and this is something a few months ago I said he may actually bump up to 133. It could end up being better for the team. It's still, he's in the rankings at 133, but he hasn't actually come out to wrestle 133 yet this season, right? Because the season now hasn't started. But by the way, we're a month out from the season starting. A month out. Which means, like, I'm hard at work on my guide to be coming out at the end of this month. So look forward to that. I know if you're a stats fan, you're a wrestling fan, that's something to look forward to. But I'm interested to see, is Vito going to be able to compete against RBY and Dayton Fix? There's a lot there. A couple other takeaways from these rankings. The other thing is at 149, okay? And you got Yanni up top, then Austin Gomez, then Sasso, then Ridge Lovett. And the reason I think this is a little bit nutty is because Ridge Lovett made the national finals last year. Did he not? Why is he being put all the way at number 4? I mean, okay, I understand the reasoning. He lost to Austin Gomez and he lost to Sammy Sasso. So that's why he's ranked behind them. But Sasso and Gomez weren't in the national finals last year. And as much as I like those guys, Ridge was the guy who came alive at the end of the season, which is why I think he should be put above them. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Ridge should be above them or not? Well, anyways, the other thing that I want to talk about is at 157. So, and this is both by FloWrestling and Intermat, but look at Flow's wrestling rankings here. Austin O'Connor is ranked at number 8, and I think he's severely underrated right now. Maybe he didn't have the full performance last season that he should have at 157, but he was injured, and I think he's going to make a big comeback, a big splash at 157. Another thing happening here at this weight is that Caden Gefeller is back. For Oklahoma State, he was at 149 previously. Weren't sure if he was coming back or not. It appears that he is coming back. And as far as 165 all the way up through heavyweight, there's nothing really of note there. The only thing I'll note is that over the next few weeks, I'll be coming out with my weight by weight previews for those weights. This week, 174 pounds is coming out, so look forward to that preview. And then there were some schedules that came out, which really excited me. The first of these was Arizona State. They finally announced their 2022-2023 schedule. So let's take a look at it. The Sun Devils schedule, starting at Rutgers, November 12th, they'll be wrestling Journeyman and Wranglemania. I think that'll be fun. They're coming to Pennsylvania. If you're in Pennsylvania, I'd probably recommend getting out there to check out Arizona State because they have quite the team they're putting together this year. I'm really looking forward to 3 duels in particular. I'll tell you those in a second, but the first thing is they're going to a few tournaments. That's the Cliff Keen and Midlands. I mean, that's a tough beginning of the season there. I'm looking forward to, though, the duels. Mizzou, Nebraska, as well as I'm looking forward to Iowa State. I mean, those are 3 top-ranked teams, and Cornell. They'll be wrestling Cornell in Austin, Texas. But if they beat those teams, I mean, they really cement themselves and really earn that spot as probably a top 3 team. You could even argue, depending on how the season pans out, like behind a Penn State or Iowa. And maybe if they're undefeated, they kind of get that spot. I don't know. The other team that we'll see how their season goes, but Oklahoma State, they announced their schedule for 2022-2023, and here are a couple things to look forward to. So they have Bedlam dates set against Oklahoma. That's Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. Every year they have Bedlam on December 11th, as well as February 16th. You can look forward to those dates. And this team has a lot to prove this year, I think, because they don't have the AJ Ferrari back in the lineup, and he's not on the team anymore. So what are they going to be able to prove? I think as a dual meet team, they may be able to pull some things together with Gefeller back in the lineup, with Whitlake bumping up a couple weights, with Fix back and ready to crack some skulls. I think it's going to be a good team. And then against Iowa at the end of the year, which is another team that recently announced their full schedule. I know I talked about the Big Ten teams last week, but they finally announced their entire slate. This is their Big Ten slate right here. And then this was what's new from this past week. So they'll have Cal Baptist, Army, Sacred Heart, Buffalo, all in November. A lot of duels for Iowa in the beginning of the season, which is exciting. Then the All-Star Wrestling Classic in November with a couple guys competing in that. They'll have UPenn November 26th. Iowa State in the Cy Hawks series on December 4th. Then Chattanooga their Soldier Salute at the end of December, so it doesn't appear that they're wrestling in Midlands, but rather going to the Soldier Salute, and then Oklahoma State at the end of the season. That is, of course, mixed in with their Big Ten schedule. And one of the big things this year is Spencer Lee. I'm looking forward to him winning his 4th title. And if you haven't seen yet, I did a video comparing a new guy who may be the next Spencer Lee. If you haven't checked that out, I'd recommend checking out that video right here where I compare them and what could be next for this upcoming high schooler. Those have been your wrestling headlines.